Myanmar, officially called the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, is a country in Southeast Asia bordered by the Bay of Bengal and the Andaman Sea. Its neighboring countries include Bangladesh, China, India, Laos, and Thailand. After years of unrest under a strong authoritarian regime, the government has recently announced a series of political and economic reforms, leading Myanmar to newfound fame as Asia's next rising star. What promises does Asia's next rising star hold? Well, Myanmar's economy is expected to grow 4 times that of current levels, with an average annual GDP growth rate of 9.5% by 2030 and achieving an annual GDP of over 200 billion by 2030. With the opening up of borders, foreign companies will be charging in to serve a market of over 500 million people. Over 10 million non-agricultural jobs are also expected to be created, much to the joys of the people of a country labeled as one of the poorest countries in Asia. To fulfill these promises, there are 3 areas that need immediate attention. Firstly, Myanmar needs to transit from a factor-driven economy to an export-oriented manufacturing economy. Secondly, developing infrastructure is extremely important to both support a vibrant manufacturing sector and improve accessibility to goods and services. Myanmar will need a total investment of approximately $650 billion by 2030 in order to reach its growth potential, which includes $320 billion in infrastructural development alone. Lastly, to do all this, Myanmar is going to need nearly 26 million TVET-skilled workers by 2030 to carry out specialized roles in factory production and infrastructure development. TVET stands for Technical, Vocational, and Education Training, which simply means people possessing practical skills and technical competencies that are in demand. Progress must be made in all 3 areas simultaneously in order for Myanmar to fulfill economic potential. However, there is one huge problem. While Myanmar has the demand for TVET-skilled workers, she does not have the supply to meet this demand. The TVET education system in Myanmar is poorly developed, so it cannot produce the kind of skilled workers that are required to develop its economy. So how poorly developed is Myanmar's TVET educational system? Firstly, there are not enough TVET schools in the country. Current data suggests that there are only 480 public TVET schools in Myanmar, and is likely to amount to as little as 1,000 institutions in total, after factoring in an estimate for unregistered private players. Also, all of these schools use different definitions of occupations and skills, making it difficult for companies to screen suitable candidates for hire. Participation rates are also extremely low, with a mere 0.5% enrollment rate out of the pool of upper secondary school students. TVET graduates may not necessarily have the skills either, given that companies, especially foreign ones, have been lamenting about how hard it is to screen for workers who suit their business needs. All these point toward a lack of supply of TVET-skilled workers in Myanmar. If this is not addressed, there will be a mismatch in the labor market. The demand for TVET workers may very well exceed the supply by as much as 2.6 times by the year 2030. For a country with the ambition to be an export-driven manufacturing economy, the current supply of TVET graduates does little justice. Low skills in the labor market reduces productivity and results in poor quality of finished goods. This affects the competitive edge and the bargaining power that Myanmar would like to have in its external trade. This demand-supply mismatch may not only impede economic growth, but may also increase inflation as well. If supply-side labor issues are not addressed, there will be a consequent limit of Myanmar's productive capacity. Any form of investments are then unlikely to yield increases in output, increasing inflation instead as the AD curve shifts further to the right. The third consequence is increased unemployment. With the abundance of resources that Myanmar has to offer, businesses are not going to look overly hard to try and find local talent from the limited number of skilled workers available. The demand will simply be met by hiring foreign talent. Finally, not having reforms directed at increasing the TVET-trained labor pool might very well be the final nail in the coffin of small and medium-sized enterprises and infant industries in Myanmar. So you see, all these possible consequences means it is extremely important to address the shortage of TVET-skilled workers in Myanmar. To aid Myanmar in developing her economy, let's crack open the problem to examine its root causes in greater detail. There are 3 factors behind the shortage and supply of quality TVET workers. Firstly, there is a small pool of TVET graduates. The reason behind this are high dropout rates, which are at incredibly high levels at around 40%, and low enrollment levels with only 0.5% of upper secondary level students enrolled. These are in turn caused by 3 reasons. Firstly, are preference-related problems. Many have a poor perception of TVET education. Many young people feel that they are able to get better-paying jobs in more lucrative professional-level occupations. Secondly, is inequity in opportunity. People living in rural areas can't access TVET schools as easily as those living in urban areas, given the high fees and that TVET schools are mainly concentrated in Yangon and Mandalay. Lastly, is agency loss. High exam failure rates are largely the consequence of poor teaching. Teachers fail to teach properly due to insufficient training, lack of qualification, and lack of motivation. Secondly, there is no consistent or benchmark quality of TVET institutions across the country. This is due to agency loss and inefficiency issues, especially since the central government has devolved the institutional management of TVET education to 14 ministries. The difficulties in monitoring and coordinating these ministries have led to institutional pluralism, duplication of work, and a lack of coordination. Also, poor design and delivery of the curriculum is an important factor behind quality issues. This is contributed by agency loss at the school teacher level. As explained earlier, teachers are poorly motivated and insufficiently trained, hampering their teaching effectiveness. Also, there is further information asymmetry, as institutions are unaware of the necessary skills needed in the labor market. Simply put, they do not involve employers in the labor market in designing the curriculum. Thirdly, around 10% of Myanmar's population, or 5.5 million Burmese, are estimated to live abroad. This is very high compared to even high emigration countries such as the Philippines. This diaspora represents a huge skills pool which could potentially contribute to Myanmar's economy. Reasons for this brain drain include preference-related problems, shaped by policies providing incentives for TVET-skilled workers to work abroad. These policies aim to formalize the large unofficial flows of Myanmar nationals abroad, rather than encouraging skilled workers to stay in Myanmar, by providing pre-departure training and skill development in sectors where they are most in demand abroad. Another reason is due to uncertainty problems, as the instability of the authoritarian regime deters workers abroad from returning. And so you see, the problem of TVET skill shortage in Myanmar is multifaceted and a consequence of various factors. But these problems are not unique to Myanmar. Other countries like Sri Lanka and Malaysia have encountered similar issues when trying to revamp their TVET systems in the past. Myanmar can take some examples from Malaysia and Sri Lanka, countries who have been relatively successful in revamping their TVET programs. To solve agency loss at the school teacher level and information asymmetry, Myanmar can revamp the TVET curriculum to include more time for students at the workplace, giving them adequate hands-on experience before they go into the working world. Malaysia, for example, came up with a national dual training system, also known as the NDTS. In this system, modeled after the German TVET curricula, students spend 70 to 80% of their time working in real workplaces to prepare them for the working world, and only about 20 to 30% of their time in training institutions. The government takes the time to foster relationships with chosen private companies in order to understand their needs and allow students to learn directly from industry experts. To reduce dropout rates and preference-related problems, Sri Lanka has created a national vocational qualifications assessment system to rank workers based on skills rather than by grades and paper qualifications. Students are ranked from entry-level skills to planners depending upon their performance, allowing their various levels of competencies to be recognized at their own pace. To further address information asymmetry and agency loss at the ministry government level, any accreditation systems developed in Myanmar should be developed and overseen by a single government body. Both Malaysia and Sri Lanka established a single government body to oversee their respective TVET systems. Institutions and their programs are accredited by the government. These accreditation systems are benchmarked to and recognized by international professional bodies like TAFE in Australia, City and Guilds in the UK, as well as the international motor industry in the United Kingdom. In conclusion, building up the right skills in their workforce will be essential to support Myanmar's transition towards a modern market-based economy. Hopefully, Myanmar will be able to learn from countries who have been successful in reforming their TVET systems. By addressing the supply of TVET-skilled workers, Myanmar will have greater success in building a strong foundation to truly rise as Asia's next rising star.